I'm not going to promise to be the most interesting or the most informative speaker that you've ever listened to this afternoon, but by the time I'm finished I will be the smelliest, because I'm going to show you how to make some unstable allicin and show you why you need to stabilise it to get all of the marvellous properties from this incredible material that we've known about now for many, many years. So there's going to be a little bit of a brief overview of Allimax and how it's great for coughs and colds and that sort of thing, because I do believe we're coming into the Canadian winter very, very soon. Probably next week it starts, as far as I'm aware. And also, as well as being the smelliest performer you've ever seen, I'm probably the only one wearing a garlic tie. So that does give me the credentials, I hope, to talk about Allicin being basically nature's antimicrobial. In other words, it kills fungus, virus and bacteria. It's also a very natural component that synergizes with lots of other ingredients. And we'll talk a lot about that before we enter into the formal presentation on the new Allimax control, which is specifically for diabetics. So we believe that allicin is the heart of garlic, and that's because if you take a bulb of garlic, you all know what a bulb of garlic looks like, and you all know what a clove of garlic looks like. So interestingly, we know from the basic chemistry that inside a clove, in the central core, there's an enzyme called allinase. And around that central core, in every single cell that surrounds it, is a sulfur compound called allicin. So allicin and allinase, if you like, are garlic's dynamic duo. They're there for a specific reason, but they're in separate cells until they're required to come together. So garlic contains a wide range of vitamins and minerals as well as these sulfur compounds. And when you harvest garlic, honestly, you know, it doesn't really have any smell, not particularly, right? Like this, no smell. But when you cut, crush, cook, boil, chop, stir fry, smash with a knife like the Spanish do, or just tread on it like the British do, because they don't like it that much, you basically start a chemical reaction, and that chemical reaction can be said to make an unstable allicin. So this is the smelly bit, where I'm going to basically make some unstable allicin. Whoops, sorry, go back one. So, for those of you who don't, you normally do this in the kitchen. This is good Canadian garlic, and within about 15 seconds my voice is going to go. I'm definitely going to need some water. What I've done is I've basically combined the allicin and the allinase enzyme. They've reacted with each other. Oh God, that was strong garlic. Oh, it's burning the back of my throat. However, they do say that Italian opera singers chew garlic every day to strengthen their voices. So perhaps my voice will get louder over the next few minutes, we'll see. But anyway, what I've done is I've just started a chemical reaction in my mouth. The allicin is burning the back of my throat. And what we've done is we've combined, as I said, the allicin, the sulfur compound, with this enzyme, allinase, and the first thing that's released is allicin. Everybody agrees on that. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a manufacturer, a scientist, a researcher, a marketeer, everybody knows the basic chemistry of garlic, and it is allicin and allinase produce allicin. Voice is coming back a little bit. So what happens after that? Well, after that it gets very interesting, because this allicin, being extremely unstable chemical, it's burnt the back of my throat, but it's already changed into a whole series of sulfur compounds, including ajoine, that's from the Spanish, ajo for garlic, diallyl trisulfide and diallyl disulfide. These are just simple sulfur compounds. Some of them are bioactive, some of them are transitory, some of them we've not actually captured yet. And we know that these thiosulfonate compounds break down in the body once the allicin has been released. So for example, with a product like Allimax, you get the allicin, the mother substance, and once it's in the body, it breaks down to basically form a lot of these sulfur compounds, and you'll see why that's useful in a minute. So, let's look at the historical properties of garlic. that can be attributed specifically to allicin. The first one you'll know already, antibacterial, a very wide spectrum of bacteria, including gram-positive and gram-negative bugs, will be killed by allicin very easily. So I've got no bugs in the back of my throat now. I'm not going to get a sore throat in the next half an hour, that's for sure. Even though the allicin that's there has already disappeared and changed into those sulfur compounds. You'll see the big difference when we come on to looking at some of the supplements and why some are much better than others. We also know that it's antiviral, including killing the common cold virus, Yersinia virus, Epstein-Barr virus, herpes viruses. All of these viral components are easily killed by allicin. And we will be looking at the common cold study in a few minutes. We know it's also very antifungal, so it's very good for candida treatment. And that candida overgrowth that a lot of women suffer from in Canada and America and Britain and around the world. It's unfortunate that that happens. And you can go to the drugstore and buy a product, a one capsule product that will cost you about, I think it's about $30. And you use it and it gets rid of the fungus, but then within 2 or 3 weeks that comes back again. That doesn't happen when you use stabilised allicin. That's proven beyond reasonable doubt, as we say in the UK. So, anti-cancer, well, we know that garlic is recommended as an anti-cancer food in the United States by their cancer societies. The reason for that is for this Iowa women's study, where they follow 42,500 women in the state of Iowa, and they look at their consumption of fresh fruit and vegetables, including garlic. They look at the number of diseases and types of cancers that these women suffer from over their entire lives. It's an epidemiological survey. And it's interesting that the strongest relationship is that the women who eat the most garlic in their diet, whether that's raw, fresh, cooked, supplemental, the ones that take the most garlic in have the lowest rates of stomach and esophageal cancer. So we know that garlic has definite anti-cancer properties. There have been 1 or 2 small studies completed, but nothing kind of beyond reasonable doubt. So that's an area of extensive research at the moment. Okay? We also know that it reduces cholesterol and blood pressure. That's certainly true with Allimax, we know that for sure. We also know that it reduces blood sugar levels, and we'll be talking a lot more about that in a few minutes when we come on to Allimax Control. And we also know that if you were to take a very high fatty Canadian breakfast, would that be high fat?
Yes.
Maybe? Yes, high fat. If you were to take Allimax at the same time, you would actually absorb about 35 to 40% less fat from that fatty meal that you're enjoying. So that might be another reason for having it every day, if you could do that. I wouldn't recommend that, but it does work like that. It prevents the build-up of fat in coronary arteries in particular. And we have a product called Heart Life that basically can elongate your life. And we'll be talking about that, I'm sure, in Canada in the next six or 7 months, hopefully. Hopefully. So, let's see. Now, I imagine some of you are retailers. Would you like to put your hands up if you're retailers? Oh, there's a lot of you. Well done. That's great. Thank you. So you know your eggs are eggs and your onions are onions. But do you know your eggs from your onions? Now this basically, this suggests that if you are selling garlic oil capsules, you know how they make their material. They take fresh garlic, they boil it up in a huge vat, and they distill over the essential oil of garlic. Now that's been done for 120 years. It's very efficient. It works perfectly, and you end up with a very complex mixture of sulfur compounds that have absolutely no allicin in there whatsoever. None. Zip. Okay? So they're not going to do anything for your antimicrobial properties, for helping the common cold, for looking at cholesterol and blood pressure. They might help your circulation a little bit, but not very much. Then we look at aged garlic extracts. Now, this is an interesting compound because they take their fresh garlic, they put it into huge vats of vegetable oil, and they leave it there to age for a couple of years. Now that process obviously degrades the garlic, and that means that the allicin and the allinase, remember them, they come together, they degrade, they produce the allicin changes into all those sulfur compounds and disappears. So this one, it's a nice product, it's got lots of sulfur compounds in it. It has quite a lot of research to show that it has some potential anti-cancer benefits, but there's virtually nothing to suggest that it can kill fungus, virus or bacteria, or intestinal parasites for that matter. So it's an interesting product, but no allicin in there either. Now we come to macerates. That's where the garlic is crushed, and that again starts that chemical reaction, and that means you lose most, if not all, of the available allicin that can be produced by allicin and allinase. So macerates will contain maybe some, but very little allicin potential. Garlic powders, these are very popular in the UK and Europe, and basically what they do very cleverly is they take their raw garlic, they split it up into cloves, and then they extract the water. They remove the water. Garlic it's got a lot of water in it, okay? So that gives you a powder, and that powder means that the allicin and the allinase are intact. So that powder has allicin and allinase in it. They then cover the powder with sugar and shellac, titanium dioxide, magnesium stearate, gum acacia. These are all things that we call excipients that your customers don't want. They don't want excipients, they want a pure, clean product. So unfortunately, this one, when it gets into your stomach, it can be immediately deactivated by your stomach acid. So your stomach acid comes along and says, it's a garlic powder. Let's go and find that enzyme, allinase, and kill it. And that's exactly what it does. It kills the enzyme allinase. Consequently, the actual allicin potential is completely deactivated by your own stomach acid. So none of these products really release much, if any, allicin into your bloodstream at all. The big difference that you will understand as retailers, you've probably sold Allimax for many, many years, you know that it actually is real allicin. So it is the mother substance, and that means that when you swallow it, it gets down into the gut, it gets absorbed, and the allicin goes to where it's needed. So there's no conversion, there's no requirement for the enzyme to convert to the allicin. So that means you've got a huge amount of allicin in Allimax, and that's why we have all this information and data on what it can do for human health and well-being.